Right, Ben, what's next? Where are you taking us next?
So next up, a little bit of different dungeon delving. So a lot of people will know Cephalofair Games, who are responsible for Gloomhaven, the biggest board game that has ever existed, according to BGG. And obviously it had a recent Kickstarter for Frosthaven, which is the other big new box which is coming out. But the problem with both of those games is that, as well as being insanely sprawling in detail and scope, they're also a little bit expensive. And so this, which is Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, is a cut-down introductory version of Gloomhaven that you can dive into. It's completely Gloomhaven once you get into it. The first 5 scenarios are dedicated to being almost like a little bit of a tutorial, introducing all the different mechanics into the mix as you go. But from that point onwards...
This is it. This is the layout of what you get.
That's all the contents that you get inside it. So once you get past those first 5 scenarios, everything after that is proper Gloomhaven. So it's choosing which missions you want to go to, sticking new locations down onto a map, going to them and choosing which path you want to do, making your choices and consequences and all that kind of thing as well. The only thing is, as I say, they've made this slightly more accessible, so it's a lot more cut down in terms of its sort of scope. 25 scenarios more than compared to like the massive 100 and however many odd there are in Gloomhaven, and then even more in Frosthaven beyond that. There's only 4 characters rather than any that you unlock along the way, so there's lots more focus on those characters being the ones you play as throughout this. It's completely compatible with being played solo, 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player, however you want to play it. And again, it has that really nice Gloomhaven charm of having the miniatures be for the characters, and then everything else in the box is standees, and as you can see there, that fold-out ring-bound map book. So instead of having to mess around with effectively a library's worth of tiles, as I've had to do in the past with Gloomhaven, you just open the book to the page you need, slot another book underneath it if you want to, kind of using all that kind of thing we've seen before from like map book companies and that kind of thing, and doing it that way instead.
Cool. What happens if I progress off the tile and you're still on it?
Well, because
you just turn the page and just fly you into space.
Well, thankfully, the maps are all self-contained, so you only have to fight within those. There's no flicking someone off it. There's no dexterity element to this, which is cool.
You have to keep up, because if you don't, you're being turned over.
A key thing about this that I wanted to talk about as well is that if you want to play a dungeon delving game and you want to have like really good mechanics, this is a game that does that. Like the way they sort of play on that is very, very cool, because the whole idea is that you have a hand of cards, and as well as that being your actions and the way that you move and all your powers and abilities and that kind of thing, it's also effectively your stamina and your tracker for how long you can stay in the fight. So when you're playing and you're playing your cards onto the tabletop, you've got to make real decisions as to whether or not you want to go like an all-out burst and do loads of damage straight away, use some of those cards and burn them and throw them into your lost pile rather than into the discard, or whether or not you want to take it slower and that kind of thing. So there's a timed element and sort of a lot more like cooperative sort of plan making between everyone at the table, as well as just being sort of like wade in and kill all the monsters. There is loads of that, obviously, but it's a little bit more tempered as well, which I think is very cool. It's very, very good.